I am so excited. Today we got to do something we haven't done before. We met with two amazing Kiwis who have to be some of the most determined people I've ever met. Sir Graeme Dingle, KNZM, MBE, and Joanne Wilkinson, Lady Dingle, MNZM, LLB. Graeme is an amazing, legendary adventurer who has undertaken some of the most amazing mountaineering, rock climbing, and adventuring firsts. He is an author, a painter, and a builder. Joanne is also an amazing adventurer. She is a lawyer and has also held many governance roles in the arts, public, and social sectors. Together, through co-founding the Graeme Dingle Foundation, their work in the humanitarian and youth space has changed hundreds of thousands of lives for children in Aotearoa. And they love their animals too. Today, we kōrero about not staying in your scaredy-cat box and having the determination to change your story. They're adventuring in some of the most incredible stories I have ever heard, including a leaky boat between Alaska and Russia, the Graeme Dingle Foundation and the mahi that they do for youth and communities. And we talk about an amazing meeting that happened on One Tree Hill. Let's get into it. Thank you so much for having us in your beautiful home today, Joanne and Graeme. It's so gorgeous here in Aotearoa, and we are so grateful to be here. So thank you very, very much.
Pleasure.
We're going to kick off with a random wellbeing card, so you can pick. You go first, Joanne.
You want me to read it?
Yep.
When it's all said and done, will you have said more than you've done? No.
It's that easy one, isn't it? What makes you say that, Joanne?
I'm more of a thinker than a talker.
Yeah.
And both Graeme and I are very action-oriented, so I suspect that will be the case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And are you what? I can't wait to talk about all the things, some of the things you guys have done. Great. You pick one too.
Who are you? I'm a scared little boy who learns to be brave and decides to fill his cup as full as possible.
That's an amazing answer. Note that he didn't use his name or position or things he's done. I love that. That is so cool. That's so cool. Thank you very much. All right. So Graeme, tell us about your journey that started in Gisborne. Tell us about where you grew up and what inspired you to become a legendary adventurer.
Well, I think the first thing I said was important, that I was a little kid who was terrified of everything.
Wow.
The dark, other people, asking questions at school, even school itself. I hated the place so much.
Wow.
And if I was asking a question, I'd say, what am I actually doing here? And then one day I was 11. My teacher said, you know, Graeme, you could be a great artist. And I went, what? For the first time in my life, really, my lights came on. And I set off quite obsessively on that path to become an artist. And along the way, the path suddenly diverted to mountains. And to start with, I was scared of heights, which didn't help, but my determination made me learn to climb. And one of my failings, perhaps, is that I won't take advice. I have to learn to do something alone. So I taught myself to not be a conservative climber, but to be extreme. And so in quite a short time I turned into an athlete and started doing some of the hardest climbs in the world. And then I was doing a traverse of the Southern Alps, the first ever traverse in winter, with a woman called Jill Tremaine. And one day she said to me, "You know, Graeme, life is a cup to be filled, not a measure to be drained."
Wow.
And I went, "What the fuck does that mean?"
I would have been the same person.
And she went, "Well, you're actually a selfish person, and you won't fill your cup till you do things that are good for other people."
Wow.
And so when the 100-day traverse was over, I established an outdoor pursuit centre, now called the Hillary Outdoors. And I started to really learn from that point. And that, of course, has led to this foundation that Joanne and I established.
That's amazing. And I mean, we've got a long way to go in your stories yet, but that's so amazing for kids to hear right now and parents to hear. For scaredy-cat kids, you know, and we kind of box ourselves in and go, we can't do that, just to be like, that determination's the thing that just kept you taking the next step forward. That's incredibly powerful. That's so cool. Joanne, tell us about you. So tell us about where you grew up and how you became a lawyer.
So I grew up in the Wairarapa and the Manawatu, one of 6. So pretty well hand to mouth, you know, family. We were quite sporty as kids, and I didn't find school very difficult, particularly. And I suppose one of the things one of my instrumental teachers said to me is that that I've always been a person for a cause. You know, I've always cared about other people and animals. And she only told me that. She wrote to me when I was given an MNZM. And this is my Form 2 teacher, so
Wow.
what is that, year 8.
Yeah.
And I thought, what a lovely thing for her to have taken the time to do. So, but teenage years proved somewhat more difficult for me. I was a bit of a rebel. As Fran Wilde said to me once when she was on our board, you know, Catholic schools turn out rebels and martyrs. So I was on the rebel side. And it was suggested to me halfway through sixth form that probably I was ready to leave school.
Right.
Yes. So I did, and in those days it didn't, you know, you could just pick up a job anywhere. So I did a variety of things. I became a receptionist in a law firm in Palmerston North, and then went on to do various other things. So for about 9 years, I did some overseas stuff, Australia mainly, and it wasn't until I came back to New Zealand in 1980 and a relationship I was in broke up. And this man had said to me that I could do anything I wanted. And that was a revelation to me, because I had put myself in that box of not being the most intelligent, not being the most popular, and so on and so on. And when he said that, I sort of blinked and thought, really? And then when that relationship fell apart, I left that small town and took myself to university at the age of 26. Wow. So I was a decade behind my schoolmates, of course. Yeah. I don't regret it. I think I went into university with life experience and commitment. So I wasn't there to muck around. And it was a hugely difficult thing for me because I'd given up all income and I was supporting myself, and I loved it, and I made really good friends, and I was a average to above average student, but on graduation went into law practice, and it was after that Graeme invited me to go on the Arctic trip, and I said to myself I couldn't possibly do anything like that. So I'd better. Yeah. So again, it's a little bit similar, pushing the boundaries and not boxing yourself in when you realise that's what you're doing. Yeah.
Incredible. Oh my goodness, this is so cool. So you go on this Arctic trip as a lawyer who is really out of your comfort zone, and the best things happen outside of your comfort zone. Yeah. And something happened for you both there that really made you think about the well-being of our young people here in Aotearoa. So talk to us about that trip and what happened to come back and do what you've done, what you've created.
You want to start, Graeme?
Yeah. By the time I met up with Joanne, I had traversed the whole of Arctic Russia, mainly along the coast of the Arctic Ocean, and some of the towns that I went to had been old gulags, and most of them were relatively happy places, but some of them were very sad. Lots of drunkenness and kids not particularly happy. And then I met up with Joanne. Was in Canada, wasn't it? Yeah. And we carried on across Canada and Alaska, and there were a few towns that we went to that weren't particularly happy. And we started talking about dysfunction. And then we crossed the Bering Sea to get back to Siberia and came back to New Zealand. And to our absolute horror, we suddenly realised that actually this place that is so beautiful had some of the worst youth statistics in the world, particularly suicide. And we went to see Once Were Warriors one night, and that was the tipping point. We said, let's do something about it. So that was the commitment. And this year it's 30 years since we stood on One Tree Hill and made our intentions clear.
That's pretty much it.
And so who was on One Tree Hill with you guys? I know this story, obviously, because I got to meet you guys a few years ago and talk about this, and sitting there where you were. But talk to us about what that was like, inviting them there and talking to them about that vision that you had for young people.
So I was teaching and practicing law, and Graeme was doing desktop research at home on what we might be able to do. Where was there a gap in the field of working with young people? And so we decided we would operate at the end of the spectrum, top of the cliff. Yep. Right. So that was our Project K program. And with Graeme's outdoor skill sets and my legal and teaching background, we were able to come up with a concept. But the people that we called there were challenged that we wanted to do this, but it would take their leadership to set us on the road. So that was Ed Hillary. Was Paul Reeves there?
I think so.
Paul Reeves. Kath Tizard came on board. Fran Wild. Who else?
John Graham.
Sir John Graham, yeah. And we had, it astounded us that they all said, yes, okay then. And that was pretty much our first board.
Wow.
Yeah, so that really helped us in terms of profile and Graham's reputation. He was well known.
Yeah. Amazing. And it's amazing once you've got that momentum.
Yes.
Then
Yeah.
the sky's the limit. You didn't need to keep that momentum rolling with those people at the end.
Yes.
But your vision was strong, and they would have seen the passion in it, but also the difference that could be made. And that's incredible. The mahi that you've done with youth and in the humanitarian space is formidable, and it's something so many of us respect and also are grateful for. But talk to us about some of the projects that you do within the Graeme Dingle Foundation and how that's making a difference for the different areas in our youth.
Yeah. Well,
you?
started with Project K, which does target young people who have a very low concept of themselves. And we measure that lack of confidence with a
Self-efficacy survey.
Yeah. That program was very successful, but the board met at one stage and said, are we doing the best we could do? We're
With the resources we've got.
perhaps helping several hundred young people each year, but could we do better?
Yeah.
And we agreed we could if we targeted other age groups. And so almost immediately an organisation that was on the brink of collapse came to us, and they ran a program called KiwiCan for primary school kids. And we merged that program. So we went from several hundred kids each year to several thousand kids. And that has grown in the meantime to nearly 30,000 kids each year.
Wow.
But we have a spectrum now where we work from age 5 right through to 24.
Yeah.
And that kind of happened over COVID because we saw the need with kids disengaging from school.
Yep.
And those kids who were fragile anyway and disengaging became just in their bedrooms on social media, not really connecting with anyone. So we broadened the offer, if you like, to work not only in schools but in communities now. So we get community referrals for kids who need a bit of a boost and more confidence in that whole career pathway or further education trainer. Yeah.
Incredible. I've got like 3 connections I want to put you all in touch with. We'll talk about that later. So how can people get involved? What can people do to support the Graeme Dingle Foundation?
Well, there's a number of ways. Of course, we need money.
Yeah.
We need about $10 million a year at this point.
Yeah.
And actually that translates to a return to the economy of about 8 times that.
Wow.
And that's the minimum return through less crime, better
More
chances of employment.
not on a benefit.
Yeah.
Better health.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Better outcomes.
Yeah. So, did I answer all
No,
your
so how can people get it?
Yes.
Help? So it's of course it's money, but $10 a month is helping.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be a huge amount. It's just a regular giving program would be incredibly useful, and it can go to the region that people are in. Because we've got a nationwide footprint more or less. But also mentoring. So we need mentors both at corporate level and at individual level for different programs. And the feedback is that the mentors get more out of it than they are giving to the young people. Yeah.
We need partnerships with schools, of course, and partnerships with various sized companies, both small and big.
And iwi.
And iwi. Yeah, we're in the Kaupapa region. We've set up a model where iwi are a partner, and all schools in the region are partners.
Will be when we grow a bit.
Yeah. So a lot of what we do is partnerships and collaboration.
Yeah. So we need to get involved, don't we?
Yes, we do.
And talk about it. I think that's one of the key things. If you're not in a position to financially contribute $10 a month, but if you know someone who might just be the person that could open a window or a door to connect, just those little conversations, those connections can make a world of difference. And just talking about what, experiences they may have had or what they know of what you guys do as well. So
I don't think there's enough conversation about the serious issues like suicide. And once people start talking, then that translates to action.
Yeah.
And
we get to the kids way before that.
Yeah, not ambulance at the top of the cliff anymore. We're coming down. Yeah.
We need people to believe that this country can be the best in the world to be young.
Yeah. It's incredible work that you're doing and continue to do. And we will be doing everything we can on our end to make sure your message gets out there as far as we can. Now, wherever you guys have lived, you've always really connected in with the community that you're a part of, and you're not just wanting to see it thrive, but you're also really wanting to be a part of it and seeing it thrive. So talk to us about some of the communities that you've been a part of.
Yeah, the Outdoor Pursuit Centre was an interesting community. It was isolated, and so the person in charge, me, was a marriage counsellor. The odd job man, and the community essentially was self-sufficient. And we had this agreement that no one came into the community unless there was complete agreement on that person.
Gotcha.
And it was a very happy place. And we had this philosophy that was terrible for the cooks, that if someone turned up at mealtime, there was always a place for them at the table. So that was a good place. When I lived near Turangi went through a very hard time. The Ministry of Works closed down, the forestry closed down, the tunnelling company had finished its work, and almost everyone lost their jobs. And so I established a thing called the Turangi Enterprise Agency, where we had activities for young people. We established little businesses that people would come and talk about their idea for a business, and we'd help them establish it. We said, let's make the place the trout fishing capital of the world, much to Bob Jones's disgust. And yeah, it was a great exercise. And of course, nowadays the place is thriving.
I think one of the side benefits of the way we've structured our organisation is that in each community where we are present, there is a sense that the Dingle Foundation is a part of the community, and it is like a big family. So we're in 10 centres around the country, and being part of the fabric of a community, I think, is essential to trust.
Yep.
And not only the outcomes we're proving, but it's the trust between the community and the organisation that we will always can be relied on.
Yeah, and that you're not trying to say something from up here and going, you guys need to do this, but you're in here seeing what needs to happen and working with and for. Yeah.
And our community partners get passionate about the issues in their community.
Yes, as they should.
Yeah. Yeah. That buy-in, once they're in behind it. Absolutely. Now, you have so many amazing stories, and like I said, when we got to sit up there on One Tree Hill with you, Abby and I, a few years ago, we were just mind-boggled. Our whole drive back to Hamilton, we were just like, oh my goodness, can you imagine doing that? Can you imagine doing that? So I can't imagine how you'll even think what stories to tell me today, but tell us about a couple of the amazing stories or amazing things that you've done. So you've kayaked to weddings and you've done all sorts of really cool things, but what's something that really, a couple of stories that stand out for you guys?
I think our trip across the Bering Sea says a number of things, particularly about Joanne. So this bit of ocean is potentially one of the worst bits of ocean in the world. It has a giant Pacific to the south and the giant Arctic Ocean to the north, and all of this ocean goes through a gap which is 100 kilometres across,
with 2 islands in
between Alaska and Russia. And we're in a very small boat, a small inflatable boat, and we get 15 kilometres from 15 minutes from the Alaskan coastline.
Where we'd left, yeah.
And something's very wrong with the boat. And so we turn off the motors, and there's this terrible noise of escaping air. And Joanne looks at me and says, "You drive and I'll pump." And so she started pumping and pumped for...
It was the keel that was deflating, so we kind of needed it.
She pumped for 200 kilometres.
Well, we weren't going to get another fine day like that in a hurry, so yeah.
Yes, it should have been a romantic arrival in Siberia, but it actually ended with Joanne saying, "Fuck off, I'm not talking to you."
And why? Do you recall, Graeme?
Yes, because I wouldn't take your advice about not landing.
Correct. Steep rocky beach, deflating keel, surge. Imagine stuck in Siberia. Yeah. Yes, quite dramatic.
I think she kept that really tame. I think you could have said this thing.
I needed to have a pee on the solid ground.
Pathetic.
Oh, he made my day. So good. Oh, what's one that stands out for you, Joanne?
I think, that was my first, and because I was so out of my comfort zone that, and I got a lot of confidence out of that trip. I couldn't have pitched a tent before I went on that trip. I was, sports. But I think the Project K journey that we did from Nelson back to Auckland, kayaking, tramping and mountain biking, was full of joy, very little drama.
Minimal swearing.
Minimal swearing. Yes, well, he almost started listening to me by then.
I think we should camp here. Yes, Joe.
Yes, that's right. There were several times in the Arctic where I had said, I think we should camp here. No, I'm sure we can find something better, and we would end up in tundra. So yes. We had a really nice time. We met lots of wonderful people, and I developed some outdoor skills that, I hadn't really had.
Yeah.
Started rock climbing, those sorts of things. So yeah, it was a joyful trip and full of purpose. Yeah. So we came back having talked to lots of people about the concept of what was Project K, being really quite clear on what we needed to do.
Has there ever been a time you've invited people to come on a trip with the two of you that aren't necessarily experienced adventurers? And has there been those moments where it quietly brings you joy watching them sort of explore or find the love that you have for adventuring?
Well, we did that with kids, didn't we? In the first Project K wilderness bits, Graeme took them, said, right, let's find the source of the Waikato River, and so they navigated.
Yeah. And
then they got a bit of ice from the glacier, and then they kayaked down the Waikato River all the way back to Auckland. So that's part of the concept really of Project K, is to open their eyes to what they're capable of and what's out there for them. But we used to auction ourselves off, didn't we, for weekends and take people kayaking and think that was interesting. We had lots of fun.
Once the couples didn't stay together.
No. Yes, might have been a pivotal weekend.
Yeah.
A bit of learning about each other. Now, when we caught up, you talked a lot about climate change and how all of this extreme weather we've been facing is a lot about this balance, is trying to re-find its balance. So talk to us about everything that not everything, but what you've been learning about with the weather and what you know of what you've been seeing over the world as you've travelled.
Yeah, one of the themes of the Arctic circumnavigation was to try and get older people to tell us what they had seen, because it was very early stages of the realisation that climate change was happening. And the first guy I spoke to looked like a Neanderthal person. He was an extraordinary looking person, and he was known to be a very astute observer of nature. And he said, yeah, I've seen something that's different. The sun rises in a different place than when I was a child. And that got me thinking about what he had seen was actually the wobble in the northern axis of the world. And I wondered, and still wonder, if that is having an effect on the climate. Because, of course, global warming started about 13,000 years ago when the last ice age ended. So when people go, oh, the glaciers are retreating, that started a long time ago. But that's not to say that the atmosphere is too full of gases like carbon dioxide.
We're speeding it up.
Yeah.
And we need to do everything we possibly can to keep the earth clean. And to, in fact, clean up all the mess, the plastics in the ocean. So we have a beach up on the shores of the kaupapa, and when you sit and look at the ancient forest there, you can't help but feel much more intimate with nature and to start to understand what Lovelock was talking about when he talked about the interconnectedness of all matter. And I think what a lot of people don't understand with this violent weather is that it is nature's attempt to get some balance back into the cycle of, so the oceans, when they are whipped up by serious wind, it's transferring gases from the ocean to the atmosphere and vice versa. And that's seen right through the business of lots of rain means more trees growing, more oxygen being put into the atmosphere. So it's one of my little interests in life. I think we need to be careful not to alarm young people about this, but to tell them that they can do something about it and they must do something about it.
Yeah. I don't think it's a little passion of yours. I think it's a big one. It should be about passion, shouldn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Now, when we caught up, you said that you can sleep anywhere and how important it is for you to get lots of sleep. So how did you train yourself to sleep on ledges, tiny ledges on mountains, and to actually get a good quality sleep?
I used to read about my heroes saying to sleep now would be to sleep forever because we'd die of cold.
Yeah.
To be absolutely honest, I can't stay awake. If I've been climbing all day, I have to go to sleep.
Yeah.
But it is just a discipline I would, if caught by dark on a mountain face and there were no ledges, I would bang a piton, hang a sling in the piton and put my foot in the sling and sit on my foot and go to sleep.
Skill. Yeah.
And yeah, that's just stayed with me. I can sleep pretty much anywhere
And does.
Yeah. Did you develop the same, Joey? That's one of my low pet peeves. I'm better at it now, but like we used to hop into bed and my husband would be 2 seconds.
Yep.
And I'd be like, oh, and I'm processing the day, and
Yeah.
And I just wonder if you developed it from doing all of the adventuring to have to sort of be able to sleep wherever, or if you, no.
It's funny at altitude though, because I don't need to sleep.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It just, and in the 24-hour daylight thing, don't need to sleep. It's very interesting.
Wow. Do you pay for that later? Like when you...
No, not that I recall. No.
Graeme, wake up, there's a bear.
Yeah, that's true. Bears, moose, wolverine.
Gun, Graeme. Yeah.
sitting there on the banks of the Yukon one day, and this wolverine came wombling out of the bush, walked out, checked out our boat,
Yeah.
and then came walking straight towards us. Joanne said, "Gun, Graham." But the gun was in the boat, and between me and the boat was a wolverine.
But I think it was just really short-sighted and interested.
Yeah,
Just wombled off it.
bad sense of smell.
Wow. Luckily for you that day.
Mm.
Now, for those of the people who are listening and watching us and they haven't tried rock climbing, talk to us about the benefits for your body and mind that you guys have found with doing rock climbing.
When I was about 35, I was working for a company that made climbing gear and camping gear and so on. And it was important that I not only designed the stuff but tried it out. And so my living was really around mountains and hard mountain adventure. And my spine was, well, the specialist said it's buggered, basically. You've taken too many crashes and there's nothing you can do about it. And so I made a list of things that would help my spine. And some of the things that I was going to stop doing as a result of the spine. And one of the things in the positive column was to do lots of rock climbing. So essentially I'd be rock climbing at least once a day.
Wow.
And it stretches out the spine and keeps you supple. And I never had another real issue with my spine.
Not until you fell on the rocks at the patch.
Well, that hurt.
Yeah.
How hot?
And for me, the rock climbing was, because I was already sporty, for me it was really around head discipline and, thinking things through, moves, back, across, down, up. Don't panic, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a puzzle to solve. That panic, I think that's a really important coping skill for a lot of us that we haven't learnt very well, is to in those situations to not just give up or retreat, to be like, okay, hold on a minute. What's the reality of the situation? What options have I got? I think that's right. Really, really important skill a lot of us need to.
Joanne's a dancer. And you can see it when she's rock climbing, the way that she points her feet.
Yeah.
I'm an elegant rock climber.
Elegant.
Apparently.
I love that. Ballerina of the rock face. I love that. Now, you don't do rock climbing anymore, but you're doing a lot of building. Is that right?
Yeah, I stopped,
When we left Lee? No, just after.
6 years ago.
Yeah.
So,
So talk to us about this building.
we're
currently sitting in a home that Graeme has built, which is amazing.
Well,
And project managed, I might add.
And painted.
And painted.
if only at school they had said to me, go and do a bit of building, you'll learn maths. There's so much to building, there's art.
Yep.
There's the whole business of working out quantities.
Kinesthetic learning.
Yeah.
We have here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Case study.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's also, when we were building here, we were living in the garage. We lived in the garage for
9 months.
9 months. And we'd be totally stuffed at the end of the day, physically and mentally, but, we'd have a sleep and be on again the next day.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was fun. Yeah.
Through COVID.
And we couldn't get plasterboard, so we used ply.
Yeah.
And I just blonded it all before it went up.
Yeah. It looks beautiful. It's so cool. And it means when you're living in the garage, you have no day off, because you know if you take a day off, it's a day longer that's going to take you to get in your house.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good motivation. I imagine good team building too for the two of you. Not.
Yeah.
Well, we built the garage first because there wasn't one. So it was brand new,
Yeah.
flash,
Yeah.
flash garage. Moved the bed in, fridge, we were right.
We've got very good solving all kinds of problems. We'll be driving through a area where the motorway is clogged with traffic, and we'll be solving the problem of that particular issue.
So next you're going to go into town planning, is what you're saying. Start getting into the roading aspect, eh?
Yeah.
or not get involved in traffic areas because we can avoid it.
Now you have authored many books, and you also won a Montana Book Award. So talk to us about writing a book while being on a mountain, because that story's pretty spectacular of figuring that out. How did you do that?
Well, I was working for the Americans in Antarctica, trying to work out when the Transantarctic Mountains had last moved and where the mountain range ended. And we were 200 miles from the pole. Very cold place. And for the first time, I started in my tent writing a book on a computer. And when I got back, I sent it to the publisher, and the publisher sent a terse note back saying, Graeme can do much better. And so I put the computer to one side and wrote the whole thing longhand, and it won the biography section in the Montana Book Awards. So that was good.
Yeah. Lucky you didn't lose your papers flying off the side.
Yeah.
What an achievement. How many pages longhand do you reckon you wrote to put that together?
Oh, it was about 250 pages, about 120,000 words.
Outstanding. Oh, can you...
I've actually just finished one called The One Tree Hill Promise. Or is it The Promise of One Tree Hill?
Well, it's not set in stone yet.
No.
It's with the publishers.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Because of the 30-year anniversary this year, yeah.
But that's 150,000 words.
that's amazing. I can't wait for that to come out. That's so cool. Congratulations already.
Well, yes, that one has been rewritten about 3 times now.
I'm really excited to read that already. It's going to be added to my book list. When do you think it's coming out?
October?
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. In 2024. I like that. Exciting. Now, Joanne, you work in governance and you work in change management and social investment and mentoring. How important is it for women to get involved and find their way into governance? But also, what kind of pathways can they be looking for, or what sort of things should they be looking for to get themselves into that pathway if they're interested?
It's an interesting question because if you're talking about the not-for-profit sector, it tends to be overwhelmingly women.
Oh, wow.
It's in the corporate area. So government has a standard of at least 50% women on their boards. It's the corporate area where women are being encouraged to apply. But if women are interested in governance, the best way to do that is to take on a not-for-profit role in governance as a start, and to do some training through Leadership New Zealand or the Institute of Directors around governance, and just then do some doing. Yeah. But only do things that really interest you. Otherwise, it's tedium. You know, it has to fulfill a purpose for you personally.
Know what you're doing before it actually connects to that bigger purpose for you. Now, I'm not sure where you'd start with this, but we'll give this a go. What are some of the things that you guys are most proud of that you have done so far? And I know that you're still going. There's a lot more to do. But so far, what are some of the most?
Well, I think the 30-year thing is pretty pivotal for me. The organisation has a life of its own now. It's not going to fall over because we're not there anymore. It's the structure, the robustness, the research base, community driven. So I think we, everything can always be tweaked and improved, but I think we got the base right when we set it up that way. It's not without issues, of course, nothing is, but I think the fact that it's got a life of its own and is sustainable and is doing good for New Zealand economically and socially.
Yeah, I think for me, one of the most fulfilling things has been the relationship with Joanne.
You're so lucky.
I know. Well, I'd say that I'm just totally content. I'm happy with everything. And I think, to Joanne's point, one of the things that we did when we set the organisation up was to map out about 10 principles that we would never, they were like rules that we would stick to through thick and thin. And they've proved to be true. We have a organisation which is pretty much as sustainable as you can make it charitable organisation. Because, it's easy enough to set up a company that makes money, but it's quite hard to set up a charity where the bottom line is better lives for many people.
But I think the fact that we can measure our outcomes makes a huge difference to the support we can get.
That's where a lot of organisations not fall over, but that's the area they need to strengthen is being able to showcase not just sometimes we think, but we've got great stories, and I think the story is so important, but sometimes it is that you can have a quantity as well, a clear measure of it. It makes a huge difference from the people who are making the decision.
And I think you need to measure both quantitatively and qualitatively. If a young person says, that program saved my life, that's qualitative. It's very hard to measure, apart from the fact that the kid said it. But it's so important. And I think too often organisations like government are measuring just the quantitative stuff.
You're spot on. Maybe that's one of those conversations you guys need to get involved in. How do we shift the lens to also
outcomes?
Yes. What are we looking for? Outcomes. When we're measuring this?
Not just not just numbers.
Incredible. So I have one more question for you. So at the end of all of our interviews, we ask our interviewee to write a question for the next interviewee that we're going to talk to, and they never know who they're going to give this question to, but this is the one it's your one today. Just
Oh, so you need the question read out.
please.
If you could have a conversation with someone who has passed on, who would it be and what would you talk about? So I can't decide whether it would be Muhammad or Jesus, because we need to sort that out. Don't we?
Do we what? There's a great answer, Joanne. So phenomenal. Yes, that's true. How about you, Graeme?
Well, I immediately went to Ed Hillary. There was a time when I thought that there should be a world council of 7 of the wisest people on earth who should be consulted on issues like the Gaza one. And at the time it was Nelson Mandela, the Dalai Lama, Mother Teresa, Ed Hillary. Who else was there?
Paul Reeves? Any Americans?
Donald
Anyway.
Trump.
I think they've got the picture.
Yeah. Ed was very philosophical sort of character and very wise. And I'd certainly like to ask him how we could resolve some of the big issues facing the world at the moment. And certainly the Palestinian situation is right up there.
Yeah. It would be a pretty incredible conversation to have. Well, thank you both so much. And we're going to get you to write in the book next a question for the next person that is going to have it. But thank you so much. There's been so many amazing takeaways from this. But if there's anything to really come to a baseline of is get out of your comfort zone. Like I said at the start, nothing great happens there. And the amount of skills that you can learn as you're trying different things and having these different kind of conversations that just push you out a little bit more to learn something new is pretty amazing. So thank you both so much, and thank you for the work that you do with the Graeme Dingle Foundation.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's been fun.
Yeah, thank you.
And we will see you again next time. Ka kite.
Yeah, bye.